Hey there. So in today's video we are going to be journeying into the fourth dimension and we are going to be solving the 2008 Putnam B3. The question is on your screen right now. Now since we are confined in a three-dimensional space and we can't really imagine what 4D space looks like, we need to solve this question analytically, and that means we need to define the objects of this question analytically as well. So the objects of this question are the circle and the hypercube. So how do we define a circle analytically? Well, it's the set of all points which are equidistant from a central point, but not all of them, because if you count all of them then you're talking about a hypersphere because you're in 4D. So since you just want a circle which is a two-dimensional shape, you need to talk about the locus of all points which are equidistant from a central point on a given plane. So first we need to define a plane, then we draw a circle on it, and then we put it inside a hypercube. So now how do we define a hypercube? Well, firstly, to answer that question, instead of talking about a unit side length hypercube, we'll talk about a hypercube of side length 2, because that makes our job a bit easier. Now, before answering the hypercube question, we'll answer how do we define a square analytically. So, well, let's say we have a Euclidean space, two-dimensional Euclidean space, and we draw a square centered at the origin. So we know that this point is 1, 1, -1. This is 1, 1. This is -1, 1, and -1, -1. So the square, or rather the interior of the square, is all the points which are over here. And well, how do we define those? If you notice, any point over here with coordinates x, y satisfies that x is in -1, 1 and y is also in -1, 1. So that means that we can define a hypercube in a similar way to be the set of all points in 4D space whose coordinates are in the interval -1 to 1. That's a hypercube of side length 2 centered at the origin. So now that we are done with that, we can move on to actually solving the question. Now we need to talk about what a plane is. Well, a plane is the span of two linearly independent vectors. So let's say we have two vectors A and B, and we'll let them be unit vectors because that puts some restriction on their coordinates, or rather components, and it's the span of these two vectors, so we multiply them by two free variables, and let P vector be the coordinate of some point on that plane, or rather what we'll do is we'll call this C, and C is the coordinate of the center of circle. So since we are going to draw a circle on this plane anyway, it's better if we define the plane in terms of the circle. So this is the plane of circle. Now the distance of any point on the circle from the center of the circle must be its radius. Let's call it r. So that means that r is equal to mod of s a hat plus t b hat, because s a hat plus t b hat is the position vector of any point on the circle with respect to the center. And now what we'll do is we'll let a hat be a1, a2, a3, a4, so it's a 4D vector, and similarly b hat is b1, b2, b3, b4. And with that out of the way, we can actually simplify this expression by squaring both sides. So if we square both sides, then the mod square of any vector is just the dot product of the vector with itself. So the dot product of this with itself will give us s square times a dot a. Well, the mod of a is 1 because we defined it to be a unit vector. So that means we get nothing in the coefficient, and similarly we get a t square term. And then we get 2st times a hat dot b hat. So what we'll do is we'll let a hat dot b hat equal k. So 2stk, and this is the equation of our circle. And since it's inside the hypercube, we can put one more condition on it, and that is that if we let the c vector be c1, c2, c3, c4, then that means that SAI plus TBI plus CI is an element of -1 to 1. So this is the coordinate of any point on the circle, and we already saw that the definition of a hypercube is that all the coordinates of points inside the hypercube are in the interval -1 to 1. So we can put this restriction, and for all I equal to 1 till 4. So now the question boils down to finding the maximum possible value of r such that s square plus t square plus 2stk equals r square has all its solutions satisfying this condition. And what we can do actually is rearrange this to say SAI plus TBI, is in -1 minus Ci to 1 minus Ci. And if you notice, this interval is not symmetric about 0, but we can change that. What we'll do is we'll say that if let's call this C for circle. So if this is the curve C, then if s comma t is in C, then minus s comma minus t is also in C, because if you put minus s minus t and over here as well, then you'll see that if s square plus t square plus 2stk is equal to r square, then minus s square plus minus t square plus 2 times minus s times minus t times k is also r square, because the minus ones all cancel out everywhere. So that means that we can say that minus SAI plus minus TBI is also in -1 minus Ci to 1 minus Ci. And now what we can do is we'll take the minus sign common from both sides. So this becomes 1 plus Ci and -1 plus Ci. So obviously these two interchange their positions as well. So what we get is this is also in Ci minus 1 to 1 plus Ci. So because SAI plus TBI is in this set as well as in this set, it must mean that it is in the intersection of these two sets. So we get -1 minus Ci to 1 minus Ci intersection Ci minus 1 plus Ci. And now we can actually assume without loss of generality that Ci is positive for all I. So the reasoning is that if you replace Ci by minus Ci, then this becomes Ci. So -1 plus Ci, this becomes 1 plus Ci, and this becomes minus Ci minus 1 and 1 minus Ci. So that means that these two sets just interchange their positions if you replace Ci by minus Ci. So that means that if we have a negative Ci, if Ci is negative anywhere, then we can just replace it by its positive counterpart, and that won't change the question at all. So what we'll do is we'll assume that Ci is greater than or equal to 0 for all I. So that means that if we plot this on a number line, then -1 minus Ci will be somewhere over here. Then let's say 1 plus Ci is somewhere over here because it's the biggest, and then 1 minus Ci will be positive, so let's say it's somewhere over here, and Ci minus 1 will be its negative. So if this is 0, then we have Ci minus 1 over here. So these two are negatives and these two are negatives. So now this is this interval and this is this interval. So their intersection is this much. So their intersection is -1 minus Ci to 1 minus Ci. Now recall that we just wanted to talk about the circle of maximum radius, and intuitively it's clear that the circle of maximum radius must have its center at the origin, but we haven't proven that yet. So to prove that, what we'll do is we'll show that if we have a point which is not the origin inside the hypercube, then the maximum possible radius which is possible with the center of the circle at that point is also possible if the center of the circle is at the origin. So what I mean is, let's take the two-dimensional analog, and let's say we want to talk about what is the maximum radius of a circle in a square of side length 2. So obviously the answer is pretty obvious, it's just 1, but what I'm saying we'll show over here is that if we have a point over here, comma, let's say C1 comma C2, and this is the center of our circle, then we'll show that the maximum possible radius for a circle which is centered at this point is also possible to draw over here. So if I have a circle centered at C1 comma C2 which is of maximum possible radius, then I can just shift it to the origin and it will still be contained in the square. So that means that if the circle of maximum possible radius is not centered at the origin, we can just shift it to the origin and it will still be contained in the hypercube. So if we show that, then we have also shown that the circle of maximum possible radius must be like it's possible to draw it at the origin. We are not saying that it's not possible to draw it anywhere else. We are just saying that it's possible to draw it at the origin. So what that basically reduces the number of variables we have to work with, because the C vector, if you remember, was the center of the circle. So C vector will just become 0. So that will obviously reduce the amount of work we have to do. So now that I've laid out that strategy in front of you, it should be pretty clear how we can prove it. Because if we have some r for which this condition is satisfied for all I, then since Ci is always positive, that means that minus of 1 minus Ci to 1 minus Ci is always a subset of minus 1 comma 1. So if some r is possible with this set, then it's also possible with minus 1 comma 1. So that means we can say C is equal to 0 without loss of generality. And now we made quite a lot of simplifications, and the next simplification may not be too obvious. So now what we'll do is we'll say that k equals 0 can be said without loss of generality. So how we can say this is, notice that if we have some plane, then a hat and b hat need not necessarily be perpendicular. So these two vectors are the defining vectors for that plane. But even though these two may not be perpendicular, we can always find some new vector, let's call it d hat, such that a hat is perpendicular to d hat and d hat also lies on the plane. So basically what we are saying is that even though a hat and b hat may not be perpendicular, we can find a new basis vector d hat such that d hat is perpendicular to a hat, and then we can shift our basis from a hat b hat to a hat d hat, because then we can say k is equal to 0, and that will just eliminate this term and it will make our life much simpler. So we can say k is equal to 0 without loss of generality, because again I'll tell you the reason if it's not clear. If you have two vectors which define a plane, they may not be perpendicular obviously, so we can't say k is equal to 0 for sure. But even if they are not perpendicular, we can still find another vector on the plane, on the same plane, which is perpendicular to a hat, and then this vector and a hat together also define the same plane. So we are just concerned with the circle, we don't really care about what's happening with the plane. So if we keep the plane constant by changing the vectors, then the circle stays the same, and hence the maximum possible radius of the circle also stays the same. So basically the maximum possible radius of the circle is independent of what k is. Now all this simplification is going to pay off. So what we'll do is we'll say that S is equal to r sine theta and t is equal to r cos theta. So we are basically parameterizing the circle, and then what we'll do is we'll say we have a, or rather r times ai sine theta plus bi cos theta is in -1, 1 for all I. Now we are really close to the solution. So what we'll do is we'll take the mod on both sides. So r is obviously positive, we can just keep it outside, and we'll take the modulus. So that means this is in 0, 1, and now we can write this as the mod of root ai square plus bi square times sine of theta plus tan inverse bi over ai. So this is just a trigonometric formula, and the thing is that this can also be the negative of this, so that's why I'm taking the mod. So now we want r ai square plus bi square mod sine of stuff to be in 0 to 1. Well, that means that this must be in 0 to 1, because notice that we are taking theta all the way from 0 to 2 pi. So sine will vary from -1 to 1, and that means that this can be anything in the interval minus or 0 to 1, because we are taking the mod. So that means r root ai square plus bi square is in 0 to 1, and that means r is in 0 to 1 over root ai square plus bi square. Now notice that the order of the coordinates of a and b doesn't matter. So if we switch a1 and a2 and we switch b1 and b2, that's the same thing as what we had before, because all we really care about are these inequalities, and these inequalities don't care about the order, they just care about the correspondence of a1 and b1, a2 and b2, a3 and b3, and a4 and b4. They don't care about which one comes at the top of the vector, which comes at the bottom of the vector, and so on. So that means without loss of generality, we can say that root a1 square plus b1 square is greater than or equal to root ai square plus bi square for all I equal to 2, 3, 4. So once we say that, that means that r must be less than or equal to 1 over root a1 square plus b1 square. Because if this is true, then it is obviously less than 1 over root ai square plus bi square, where I is ranging between 2, 3 and 4, because this is less. So if you talk about the ordering on their reciprocals, then this is greater. So if we say r is less than or equal to this, then obviously it's less than or equal to this. So what we need to find is the minimum possible value of the maximum of a1 square plus b1 square. So well, if we let this equal, let's say p, so or p1, and this is pi, so we can say that p1 square plus p2 square plus p3 square plus p4 square is equal to 2, because the sum of these squares is just a1 square plus a2 square plus a3 square plus a4 square, and similarly plus b1 square plus b2 square plus b3 square plus b4 square. And we already established that a and b are unit vectors, so the sum of their the sum of the squares of their modulus is 2. So we have this equation, and p1 is the maximum among these. So that means p1 square is greater than or equal to 2 over 4. So p1 is greater than or equal to 1 over root 2. So now what we have shown is that the circle can have a maximum possible radius of root 2, but we haven't shown that such a circle can actually be drawn in the hypercube. So what we'll do is we'll let a hat equal half of 1, 1, minus 1, 1, minus 1, and b hat half 1, 1, 1, 1. So if you let a hat equal this and b hat equal that, then you can check that the dot product is 0, and you can use this parameterization to show that the circle which you draw with radius root 2 is actually inside the hypercube if a hat is this and b hat is this. So that completes the proof that the maximum possible radius is root 2. But this is for a hypercube of side length 2. In the question we were asked about a unit hypercube. So that means the answer is root 2 over 2, which is 1 over root 2. And that is the final answer to the initial question. So that was the result for a 2-dimensional ball in a 4-dimensional cube. But what happens when you have an m-dimensional ball in an n-dimensional cube, where of course n is greater than or equal to m? So the answer to this question, the generalization of this problem, is over on my Instagram page. You can check it out in the description, link is in description. And I also post some other Putnam problems and Olympiad problems along with some self-made questions, which of course you won't find anywhere else because I made them myself. So if you like that stuff, then you can go ahead and check it out in the description, and thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.